Welcome to Built to Finish. I'm your host, Steven Pivnik. Join me each week as we explore the journeys of audacious goal setters. This includes experienced founders, CEOs, and entrepreneurs sharing pivotal moments that propel their success. We'll also be talking with endurance athletes who push the limits of physical and mental ability. This show is brought to you by Acresis, offering tailored, high-impact advisory services to help founders get to their finish line with a strategic acquisition or majority investor recapitalization. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of Built to Finish. I'm super excited to speak with today's guest. He is a seasoned news correspondent who has spent decades covering major breaking news and high-stakes stories from around the world. Known for his calm under pressure and sharp on-the-ground reporting, he has literally seen history unfold firsthand. And beyond journalism, he's also someone who is literally built to finish. I know this because we were on the same Mount Everest expedition team last year, and one of us did reach the top of the world, while the other one went home sick. Mike Tobin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Steve. It's good to talk to you again. Last time I talked to you, we were in Tibet.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you at sea level. We both can breathe a little easier here. You know what? I just recently went through a lot of the videos that I was posting, from base camp, and I realized how labored my breath was even at base camp. In hindsight, I'm not too surprised that I got as sick as I did.
Well, that's how it is when just standing up, when you're at 17,000 feet, tying your shoes is a major ordeal.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll get to Everest in a second, but let's talk about reporting for a second, because you've got a fascinating background there. And so you've reported from some of the most intense environments in the world. Like, what's your strategy to stay calm and focused when everything is unfolding in front of you in real time?
I think it happens naturally. I was just talking about with someone the other day. I like it when it really is intense, when the wheels really come off the story that you're working on, and all that pressure comes down on you like a load of hot bricks. I'm very focused and pretty zen, if you will. I don't use
Really?
that kind of language, but I kind of calm down naturally in those environments. Not unlike climbing, when you're doing that hinky move, particularly like on a sport climb when it's real vertical, how you kind of calm and you're just very focused. The next move you make is very important.
Sure.
And when the pressure's really on you, we move very fast in the news environment when the pressure's really on you, but I'm very focused. I'm very in the moment. A 20-hour day can go by like it's nothing.
I'm sure. So you've reported from Israel, Gaza, Ukraine, Afghanistan, Iraq, and so many other hotspots. When you arrive, is there competition to report first? And then how do you balance that with needing to get it right as well?
That's the $1 million question, right? Walter Cronkite always said, get it first, but first get it right. You've got to, especially in today's environment, there's so much willful bad information out there.
Exactly.
And people are getting their information from so many different sources. Everyone retreats to their information silos where they get the information they want to hear. And that's not my job. I'm not here to make the world a more rosy place. I'm just here to try to get the first draft of history down and get it to you accurately. So I'm much more concerned with getting it to you accurately than I am getting it first. And I see a lot of people, a lot of journalists taking the first impression you get of a story and putting it out on social media. And they're wrong a lot. Wow. And I should say often. I don't want to be a good journalist and choose my words precisely, but they're often wrong. I can think of one story here in Chicago where the first reports we got is that ICE had broken into a preschool, English or a Spanish speaking immersion preschool, and ripped this teacher away in front of her class. Well, when the facts cleared, what had happened is they tried to do a road stop. The teacher ran into the school, and she wasn't really a teacher. She was more of an assistant who worked with some of the others. So she ran into the school, and they got her in the vestibule. If you want to say that's improper to get her inside the vestibule, well, it's a different argument. Sure. But the point I'm making is that the initial facts we got were wrong, and usually the first version you get needs some tweaking. It's not accurate, and you do the best you can, and you hang it on your sources. I'm sure you've seen a million different live events that are developing. It's a lot of fun to be out there and ad-libbing because you're firing on all your cylinders and trying to remember where you got that last piece of information and source it and hang all your information on where you're getting it out from. But that's very important because oftentimes The first version isn't entirely precise.
Well, thank you for going above and beyond to actually get the facts straight, which is how you've built your reputation over time. So thank you for that.
Well, thanks. I'm glad you said that. That's flattering.
Yeah. So you shared a lot of harrowing stories with us at base camp. You had us hanging on every single word. What was the location/story where you felt most personally in danger for yourself and your crew?
Probably Fallujah. There was a time when I was running around with the 82nd Airborne in Fallujah, and we were in the gun trucks with the paratroopers, and we saw this white pickup truck that would drive up on us and then would drive away. He'd drive up on us and he'd drive away. And finally, one of the lieutenants said, "Okay, it determined that that guy was a scout, that he was trying to figure out where the 82nd Airborne was," and they decided, all right, go get him.
I just got chills.
we had this wild chase through the back roads of Fallujah, dust everywhere. And there was a canal, and there was a road right next to the canal. And on the opposite side of the canal was a berm made of just dirt.
Mhm.
And, right before they got onto that road alongside of the canal, one of these guys with the gun truck, it was a Humvee with the Mark 19 grenade launcher on top, actually jumped the truck and landed in front of this white pickup truck, stopped it. Now, when that happened, we saw a guy on the other side of the canal run away. Didn't think much of it at the time. Well, it turns out they're zip stripping this guy from the pickup truck, and they're trying to talk to him, figure out what he was all about. And one of the lieutenants said, "Hey, there's detonation cord on the ground." And they backed up, and they started pulling on detonation cord, and it was attached to a 155 millimeter Chinese shell. And so then they packed everybody up. They called the bomb sappers in to realize it was a bomb. Well, that whole berm alongside the canal was loaded with shells, all attached by detonation cord. And then the other side was the mechanism for a car alarm. And presumably that guy we saw run away from the other side of the canal, he had the chirper to go ahead and ignite that car, or activate that car alarm, therefore igniting the detonation cord. And each of those Chinese 155 millimeter shells was hooked to a blasting cap. So it would have just set the whole thing off. So had that paratrooper not made that bold move, you and I aren't having this conversation. We never meet.
Unreal. Wow. So I don't know how you recover from that, but on that topic, what was the story that you covered that was, hardest to recover from based on like what you firsthand witnessed?
That's hard to say. I covered the earthquakes in Muzaffarabad and Baluchistan, Pakistan. And we had said when we were going in through Pakistan to get into Afghanistan that the construction was so bad that if they ever had an earthquake, that everything would fall down. Well, there was an earthquake and everything fell down. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that we went to these towns and nothing was left standing. There were so many injured people. And I went in with the National Guard out of Las Vegas. And we had these Chinook helicopters, but it was like emptying a bathtub with a teaspoon. There were just so many injured people. You do an airlift, you fill up a helicopter, and you get 50 people out. And it was just so sad and so hopeless. And to see these people, I remember seeing a guy who he had his kid in his arms. The kid was about, I don't know, maybe 4 years old. He was pretty big. And the kid was really beat up. Just the look on his face, just desperation. It's hard to
That is so sad.
quantify it. Yeah, it was horrible. And it was just, you felt so futile being part of these airlifts because there were just too many injured people. It was just a sea of injured people waiting at the airlift, at the helicopter.
Wow. Is there like a routine that you normally go through? Like when you're done with a day of like intense reporting at a really intense location, is there a routine? Like when you get back to your hotel or wherever you guys stay, is there a routine you normally go through?
Booze.
Booze.
Yeah.
Good answer.
No, and I'm kind of interested in exploring some more healthy ways to deal with it, because even Pierre Zachevsky, I don't know if you know all of our Fox News history. We lost a cameraman, Pierre Zachevsky, and he was a good friend of mine. And that was hard.
I'm sure.
I was busy. That we're covering the Ukraine war at that time, and that war, the Russians were invading. There was a lot of work for a reporter to do. And I'm kind of realizing with myself, one of the things I do as a coping mechanism is I just flood myself with intense experiences and don't deal with it. And, losing a buddy like that, I've never dealt with it, and I've never dealt with it in a healthy way. And I just, go climb Mount Everest. I flood myself with intense experiences, and then I just don't really engage it. And that was a good friend of mine, and I was busy when there were all the memorials were happening. And I guess the way I rationalized it to myself at the time was that you don't honor a guy like Pierre by not working, by
Sure.
stopping. And so I just kept going. And that's when they did the memorials to him. And he was a great guy. And all kinds of people went to Dublin to pay their respects. And I just felt that I kept on working. But at the same time, I'm now realizing that it's kind of like an alcoholic just flooding himself with booze so he never feels anything. I flood myself with intense experiences and I never feel anything. So I probably need to work on that.
Hey, we're all work in progress
Yeah.
on how we deal with stress. So it's still amazing how like you spent your entire career like running towards chaos, and you do it in such a professional and calm way. What do you think continuously draws you to that?
Well, I like the intensity. It's funny that you mentioned that. When I was in small market television, I was out in West Virginia, and in West Virginia they have a lot of the chemical plants, and there was one of them called Rhone Poulenc was the brand, and one day it blew up, and they made methyl isocyanide, the stuff that killed everybody in Bhopal, India.
Hmm.
And so here's this place that makes poisonous gas that blew up, and all the cars were coming in one direction. I was driving in the other, and I thought, wow, I've really chosen a career. So we do that. Yeah, people go one way and we go the other way to get as close to the action as we can. What draws me to it? I saw a speech from Walter Cronkite one time, and he talked about ending up in the middle of the Mideast peace negotiations, and I was just wowed the experience. I was toying with the idea of going into radio at the time, and I had 2 internships ready to go, one in radio, one in TV, and I said, forget
Hmm.
about it. I want to go into TV. And I really wanted to get to the Middle East, and so I did that.
And you never look back.
No, and I'm pretty
Mhm.
happy with my life. I've got all these adventures that I'm racking up, both professionally and then outside of work, and make a good living. I got a roof over my head. I got a pretty wife and a good dog. So what else you want?
A pretty wife and a good dog. What else does a man need, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm just really, really curious on just, I like the inner working, I like to explore the inner workings of any entity and business entity. How does it work? So are you basically, sitting and waiting for the next thing to occur, and then somehow, some way you get contacted by the authorities that be, and you're on the next plane there?
Sort of. We're always drumming up stories. Today, actually, we're working out of the house today, but you go through all the newspapers and all the now you patrol social media a lot more than when I
Sure.
first got in the business. There wasn't social media when I first got in the business, but you patrol all the papers, this, that, or the other thing, and try to make sure that you're on top of whatever's happening in the world. And then when you see something, you pitch the stories to New York. But the truth is, you're much more efficient when the story comes to you. For example, October 7th. Well, I woke up that morning and turned on the television. I wake up pretty early anyway, and saw what was happening. And I just called New York right away and said, all right, I'm going to start going. And that was really hard because they'd closed all the airspace over Israel, and it was very difficult to get into Israel. But that
Right.
happens a lot. So you have all kinds of plans and you dump them. I've never had a good story come at a good time.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing nothing took you away from Mount Everest, because we would have missed you.
Thank you. That was it. Had a good team. I thought everybody on the team was someone was okay to be around, especially when you get close quarters and all that.
No, we definitely had fantastic energy between all the team members, and I can't tell you how disappointed I was that I couldn't do the summit push with you guys. But speaking of Everest,
Okay.
perfect segue. What originally motivated you to take on Everest? Was it the challenge, curiosity, or just proving something to yourself, or all
Well,
of the above?
certainly, all of the above. It's got the superlative. It's the biggest mountain in the world. And I started climbing out in West Virginia in the New River Gorge when I was a small market TV, and then moved to Dallas, and I joined a climbing club out there. And my first big mountain, first alpine mountain, was El Pico de Orizaba in Mexico, and that was miserable.
That's a volcano, right?
Yeah, it's a volcano, 18,700 feet. It's the 3rd highest mountain in North America. And that was my first big mountain. I was poorly equipped. I wasn't a good climber. When you see the yahoos on the mountain, I was the yahoo on the mountain, and it didn't go well. And I remember the guy.
You were the gringo on the mountain.
Yeah, exactly. And
By the way, I just recently learned that that's not a condescending term. Gringo, everybody thinks it's a condescending term. It just means foreigner, if I learned that correctly.
you know what I heard, and this is anecdotal, so check me on this if I got the facts wrong. But during the Mexican-American War, the guys who were up front were the green unit.
Uh,
And what the Mexicans kept hearing was green go, green go, green go, green go. And
Interesting.
that's where they got the term gringo from. Check me
I
out. It
like
might just be an anecdote that's wrong, but
I'll check that, but I like your version better than foreigner. But anyway, I interrupted. You were saying,
what were we talking? We're talking about
so you were in,
and
you,
yeah, and my buddy who put that climb together, I remember looking at him. We were getting ready for summit day, and it was cold and windy and hard. I remember looking at him, just like, I hate you. Why did you bring me along on this trip? And by the time we topped out and got back down to Puebla, Mexico, looked up at that summit. That was hooked. Big mountains, head hit him. I love it. You know how it is when you go. What's great about the big mountains is you often arrive at your quitting point, and
mhm,
you keep going. But you're at a point where you otherwise would think, I can't go any further. There's no gas in the tank, and sometimes you're just out of options. You got to keep going or die. And I remember I was climbing the Eiger in the Swiss Alps. I got about 3/4 of the way up, and there really wasn't a safe retreat at that point. So the only
mhm,
safe way to get off that mountain was up and over and off the backside. And I was done. I had reached my point of exhaustion on that mountain.
right.
And you can find, well, you can always, there's always another round in the fighter. You can dig a little deeper and get off that.
Hey everyone, just a quick break from the show to review the top 3 things that I talk to many founders about that are looking to maximize the valuation during an exit. 1, are your books in order? 2, is there enough growth left in the business for the acquirer? And number 3, what is your sizzle? What is that special sauce that's going to take many years for a competitor to recreate? If you have those 3, you're definitely going to be maximizing your valuation upon exit. Now back to the show. Wow, I haven't heard that term, that name in a long time, the Eiger. There's a great movie for anybody listening or watching. There's a great movie, old movie that Clint Eastwood stars in called Eiger. It's
Awesome.
what a harrowing climb. I can't believe you did that. Congratulations.
That climb has everything you want in a climb. It's scary. It's beautiful. It's hard. It's definitely a very physical vertical climb. And there are points when you just kind of, there's one point when you get on the summit cornice, your last stretch before you top out, and you kick a leg over that cornice and you look 13,000 feet down to Grindelwald, Switzerland. If you want a scary climb, man, that's it.
So that is more like Alex Honnold with ropes type climbing versus mountaineering. Is that correct?
Yeah, you do quite a bit of mountaineering, but there's quite a bit of vertical on that climb.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned being, at your end and wanting to quit. We got separated during your summit push where I got so sick, I needed to fly home and you guys went up. Was there any point during that final summit push, those last few days, where you felt similarly, where you were ready to tap out?
Not on this one. I felt good. I found with the 8,000 meter peaks, for whatever reason, I get better as we go up. When
Wow.
we're down, well, when we were on Everest and all the Himalayas, the lower reaches are all that glacial moraine. The glaciers are always dumping gravel and rocks. And so what they call the glacial moraine is just this kind of loose dirt and rocks that follows all the lower reaches of the Himalayas. And I find when I'm hiking in that stuff, I get bad footing and I turn my ankles 100 times and dumpy little falls with your backpack on. And then as we start getting higher, once we get into the ice and we can put the crampons on my boot, and now I can trust my footing. And I always
Hmm.
do better. And on Cho-Oyu, which is the 6th highest mountain in the world, I just seem to do better the higher we went. And once you get past 23,000 feet, you go on bottled oxygen. So that gives you a supercharge. So I felt pretty good the whole time on Everest. I was a little concerned at Camp 2, my feet got cold and I was having a hard time getting them warm again. And then summit day, I felt pretty good the whole time.
Based on the videos that I've seen and your documentary, which would love to promote when we're done here,
Thank you.
it seemed like you were doing great the entire upper mountain.
Yeah, I felt the higher we went, both my times in the Himalayas, the higher we went, the better I felt. All the self-doubt and everything for me was down low.
So you and our buddy Matt got pretty close on one of those high camps when your feet were getting cold. You want to share what you did?
Well, what it was is everybody else had bought some real thick down booties with them. And I had these North Face, they're lined, like slippers, but they just weren't as heavily insulated. And I liked them because they had tread on the bottom. But sleeping with those on as opposed to the heavy down booties, my feet got cold. So I made a bad gear choice and my feet got cold. So we get up in the morning and we're getting ready to move and my feet were cold. And when I say cold, they were numb, and to the point where you start to have to be concerned about frostbite. And I couldn't get them warm. And we were I forget what the delay was. I think there was some debate about who had which oxygen, us or another team on the mountain. And so we all parked ourselves in one tent. And I took off my boots and I was massaging my feet, trying to get some blood flowing back in there. Nothing was working. And Matt Ferrari, he just offered up his armpit. He said, "You want to stick your feet in my armpit?" And so I did it. So yeah, we're forever bonded. And I hope he got the smell out of his armpit.
That's hysterical. So how many of you were in that tent at that point?
It was, I think about 6 of us all stuffed into one tent.
Wow. So I heard the weather was spectacular, if there is such a thing as spectacular weather on Everest for summit day, but it was kind of brutal before it got spectacular. Like, what were the temps? What were the winds like before they got better?
I'd have a hard time guessing what the temperature was, but it was cold. The wind, particularly getting into Camp 2, I've covered a lot of hurricanes, and it was about as powerful as a Cat 1 hurricane. And to give you an idea what that means on Everest, they don't even call that a storm on Everest. That's just wind. And it was
just an average day.
Yeah. It's Everest. So it was a windy day, but yeah, easily as strong. 70 miles an hour is the bottom end of a Category 1 hurricane. And it was easily 70 miles an hour, especially when the big gusts came through. And I'll tell you what happened. The wind blows a lot of junk, particularly snow. And one good blast got the right angle to just fill my glasses up with snow and ice.
Oh no!
And and it was a tricky environment. Stopping and taking off my glasses and cleaning them out just wasn't an option. Now, in addition to all the bad footing, just couldn't see very well. Yeah, that's in the documentary. But it got pretty challenging. That was certainly one of the harder days. Nothing's going to measure up to summit day because you're climbing for so long and making so much time. But
so what you just described happened before summit day.
Yeah, that was getting into Camp 2. And then from Camp 2 to Camp 3, it was windy again. And it was windy all day. And what we were gambling on a forecast that the Alpenglow guys had, I don't know who they contract. I think it was a Swiss company that said who
it's a Swiss company. Yep.
Yeah. And those guys said on the 27th, somewhere around midnight, the high pressure over the Bay of Bengal was going to push the jet stream north of the Himalayas, and really like clockwork. Maybe it was a little before midnight, but the wind stopped. So we started out for the summit in still air. The only thing I could say would be a gripe about the weather is right about the time we got to the summit, a cloud rolled in. So we were denied that, only place in the world where you can look out over the Himalayas and be higher than everything. So we were denied the view. And if you look at our summit photos, it's kind of hazy white in the background.
I know. That's the first thing that I noticed. You guys got some incredible photos on the way to the top, but once you actually got to the top, you're in a cloud.
It's just white. Yeah. So we got to go back.
Say when, because I've got unfinished business there. I have to train harder, train better. And just, I want a second chance at this puppy.
Yeah, you do. You do. I bet you do. Well, you know what you got to do now. You've got a good idea for how to train and everything now to get ready for the next round.
Yeah, I think I trained hard enough. What I didn't do, I think I cheated the Hypoxico tent a little bit. So for folks that don't know what I'm talking about, Alpenglow Expeditions pioneered something called the Rapid Ascent Program, where instead of spending a month at base camp acclimatizing, they send you a tent, like a bevy that you put over your head and torso that pumps in nitrogen, which fools your body into acclimatizing so that when you show up on the mountain, your body thinks it's already been there for a month. And I was so uncomfortable sleeping in that thing that by 3:00 in the morning, I would leave the bevy and go into bed to get some sleep.
I hate that thing. I didn't like the tent at all, but I stuck it out. And what it is, it crowds out the nitrogen, crowds out the oxygen and tricks you into thinking that you're at altitude, and your body kicks out more red blood cells. And you got sick, so there's nothing you can do about that.
So with Everest, how many of the 7 summits have you completed?
Only 2. I've done Aconcagua and Everest, and then I went right to Cho-Oyu after Aconcagua to see how I could do above 8,000 meters. I'm thinking about Denali. I know a guy, Gaspar Navarrete. He's saying that we could do Denali in 2 weeks. So Denali kind
Wow,
of has me.
Denali 2 weeks. So you probably have to go through the tent thing again.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I tried Denali twice, both unsuccessfully due to weather. So that's unfinished business for me as well.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it seems that list of mountains you got to go back and mop up. That it keeps getting bigger.
Yeah, exactly. Any surprises from Everest? What did you come back with in terms of what lessons learned, and what have you applied like in life after that Everest experience?
Well, when you climb Mount Everest, you do kind of get a feeling that you can do anything. Something a saying that I took from college. One professor said, "Diligence beats brilliance most of the time." You know, climbing the big mountains, two things will get you up the big mountains: preparation and stubbornness. And you can apply that to just about anything. You do your preparation.
Right.
You know, you've got a big challenge coming. Do what you need to do to make sure you're strong enough or prepared enough when you come upon that challenge, and then the stubbornness will get you over the finish line.
Great advice. Great advice. So while we were there, you were filming a lot, and you created a great documentary, which we'll share in a second. Do you think all of your time spent filming took away from the experience at all, in terms of like just being present and enjoying the surroundings?
It's an interesting point, and the guys at Alpenglow were on me to shoot less, climb more. And I did that, and they helped out shooting a lot of the video. And some of those pictures were sort of really dramatic video in our documentary came from the Alpenglow
Mhm.
guys. Not too much. I think that there are times when you got to get up ahead of everybody and shoot. And when we were doing the tourism thing around Tibet and going through the monasteries and whatnot, I didn't mind shooting then, but climbing and shooting gets a little complicated. And I suppose one of the things I never did in the downtime was go see the memorial to George Mallory and his team. And I've read all the Mallory books. I've always been fascinated by George Mallory. So to climb the same route that George Mallory perished on was quite a reward.
Yeah, yeah. I remember having several opportunities to go there, and I didn't take advantage of that trek either, which I regret, because that was that was down at only 17,000 feet. We could have done that. Awesome. So yeah, so please do share some information about the documentary and how folks can find that, and any information about you and your social handles of where folks can follow you.
Sure. Twitter at Mike Tobin Fox. And then the documentary, this is where I want you to go. It's on Fox Nation. You can do your 7-day free trial and look at and watch just Everest. Of course, we want you to poke around and find other things that you want to watch on that platform. But we are streaming on that platform. We've been top 5 ever since that Everest documentary dropped. And about the documentary, it's certainly different than anything I've ever done as a reporter, largely because it's personal. This is about my journey up Everest. The team included a lot of the guys, and you'll learn a lot about what it takes to climb Mount Everest. But I also talk about the impact. I had this discussion with now Ambassador Huckabee, but Mike Huckabee, the guy who won the Iowa primary, ran for president, about whether he would ever run again. And he said,
Mhm.
when you make a decision like that, you put the whole family through it. And if you make a decision to climb Mount Everest or one of the big Himalayan peaks, you put the whole family through it. And there's a long period where your climb is going to take over the house. And so you got to be aware of that going through. My wife was great and she was supportive. And, I love her even more now because she was such a good wife through all that. And I'll tell you, I missed her. We were getting to it. Well, the whole time laying at base camp by myself. But man, it would be nice to be next to a pretty girl right now. Base camp is a lonely place. But,
The Sherpas didn't cut it for you, no?
no. Well, they're nice guys. I love them, but it's different.
100%. That's interesting that you say that, and I wholeheartedly agree, because at the end of the day, I think I will do it again sometime.
There you go.
But what the only thing giving me pause is not the impact it's going to have on me and the toll it's going to take again, is the toll that's going to take on my friends and family.
It does.
For the months, if not year plus of preparation, where you just dominated every single conversation.
Yeah.
And then all of the nonstop 24/7 concern while I was there.
Right. One thing I know is during the prep time, shut up. Talk to other people about what they're doing. It's hard to do because it takes over your life, but it's like when you're on a diet, all you can think about is food. So when you're training forever, so all you can think about is training forever. So, you got to get up in the morning and do your long days, particularly on the weekend days. Hopefully you have, I had a good support network, mostly my wife, And that helps a lot.
I think an expedition like this is impossible without an incredible support. Maybe when I go next time, I'll just tell my wife and my 2 girls and nobody else. So Everest won't dominate the conversation for the year.
And I didn't tell many people before I left. My closest friends knew I was going, but I kept it quiet because I didn't want a whole lot of buzz before I went up there. And I didn't say anything on social media before I went.
Well, great job on the documentary.
Well, thank you.
I've watched it 3 times already. I mean, every time I
Really?
watch it, I think of something new. And I was literally it's only 33 minutes. So it's a relatively, short watch. And it's just chock full of, so much great scenery, information and insights and the details of what an Everest expedition is like. So I'll probably watch it again. And
I hope so.
I highly recommend anybody viewing or listening to check it out.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Really, yeah, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate all the information you shared about your fascinating reporting job and all of the details about Everest. Looking forward to seeing you in person one of these days soon and catching up. Thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of the Built to Finish podcast. If you've enjoyed this show, please do like and subscribe. It helps the show a lot. And I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you very much. And until next time.
That's a wrap for this episode of Built to Finish. Thank you for tuning in. For show notes and more details, head over to podcast.stevenpivnik.com. Special thank you to our sponsor, Acresis, offering tailored, high-impact advisory services that help founders get to their finish line with a strategic acquisition or majority investor recapitalization. Catch you next week.